Let's start with our feet hip width apart, and we're taking the arms up to the ceiling, backs of the hands together, and then backs of the hands coming down to the floor. So reaching up and lowering, and reaching up and lowering. And as you do this, what's going on today? As you do this, think about the movement in the shoulder. So I'm almost drawing a shallow figure of 8 with my arm, because as I lift the back of the hand up, I'm sort of leading with the elbow as well, which helps create a movement in the shoulder, and there's a very subtle circular movement going on at the bottom and the top. Let's add our breathing to this. So as the arms go up, we're breathing out. As the arms lower, we're breathing in, trying to grow taller. So breath in at the bottom, breath out, the arms come up, breath in to lower, breath out and breath in. Let's add a rise to this. So breath in at the bottom, breath out as you take those arms up, breath in, lowering the arms, rising up onto the balls of the feet. Breath out, lowering the heels, but keeping those heels off if you can. Not off completely, but don't rock back into the heels is what I mean there. Breath in, breath out, breath. No, breath in, breath out. If you lose concentration, you will do the breathing the other way round, because the other way around is more natural. Last one, breath in, breath out. Great. Thinking about these arms, let's move them forwards and then open them out. So bring them forwards, bring the backs of the hands together and open them out. I'm going to go slightly sideways on. Now as you bring the arms forwards, I want you to tuck your pelvis under, push your rib cage back, so it's quite a strong stretch around the ribs, and then shift the rib cage forwards as you open up the arms, like a Russian ballet style. So palms are up, chest is nice and broad, and then we're tucking under, rounding the back and pushing and opening forwards. My weight through my feet is very different. Here I'm right back on my heels, and I could almost step backwards if I lost balance. And then when I pitch forwards with the rib cage, the weight is on the balls of my feet, and I could rise up if I wanted to. But actually the purpose of this, so we're moving the rib cage around, mobilising that rib cage. But the other thing I really want you to focus on, and let's do a few of these on their own, knees soft, is this pelvic tilt. So one hand in front, one hand behind. Tuck the pelvis under. No using the buttocks. Tuck the pelvis under, so pubic bone is higher than the hip bones if you like. Return to neutral. Tuck the pelvis under, return to neutral. So my neutral is already quite curved. Very tempting to go beyond that, but try not to. Send your tailbone down. It looks like I'm switching on my buttocks, but honestly I'm not. It's all just hanging there. It's just because I'm changing the shape at the pelvis. But this is the important part. So I'm isolating that pelvis as much as possible. I'm going to face forwards for a few more. Using pelvic floor, so lifting the pelvic floor up towards the head and drawing the belly button tightly back towards the spine. So you've got two sets of internal muscles working in sort of at right angles to each other, if you like. Pelvic floor is lifting, belly button is drawing back towards the spine. It's going back on a horizontal plane. So one's going vertical, the other one's going horizontal. So tucking under, and you might start to feel a little bit of work here, and it'd be nice if you could feel a bit of work there. Scooping out that tummy. It's the beginning of our peeling bridge as well. So tucking under, and then when we're in slightly different positions, and then we start to add, in fact let's add, so let's take those arms back again. Add the rib cage rounding and the head slightly lowering. So we're aiming for the C curve from the base of the spine to the crown of the head, and then we're opening, and so now the whole body is joining in with the movement. but it's sort of initiated from that pelvic tuck, which is what we're going to use quite a lot in this class. Okay, so let's take our feet shoulder width apart, and let's reach up one side, try and straighten out that whole side of your body, push down through the same foot on that side, and then on the other side. Take your time with this. It's not just our lifting of the ribs off of the hips, it's this pushing down at the same time. 4 of those, and then hold both arms up, look up. Now imagine that someone's cut the puppet strings. Your arms are puppet strings. They've cut the puppet strings and the arms just drop. Now let the head roll down and over. We're taking a nice smooth roll down. Soften the knees as soon as you need to. Unravel the spine at the same pace if you can, all the way to the floor. Head is hanging. Nod the head, shake the head, and then we're going to straighten the legs to try and stretch the hamstrings and soften the knees. If you can get your hands to the floor when you straighten your legs, push your hands into the floor. Don't worry if you can't. Try and keep your hands wherever they are. So whenever you soften the knees, you're not taking a great big knee bend, it's just a release of that hamstring stretch. And then soften the knees one last time. Think about how you come up. Let those arms hang. There's that pelvic tilt again, all the way up to the top. So now every time you come up in the next couple of exercises, we're going to repeat that one. But so just watch a moment. From here, I'm really focusing when I'm coming up of strongly tucking that pelvis under as much as I can. And I'm 3/4 of the way up, but I've got that C curve going on again. And then from here, I finish it off by straightening the legs, keep that pelvis forwards, and then the spine unravels until the head lifts. And then you find yourself in your good neutral posture, standing posture. So let's do 4 reaches up again. So reaching up, straightening out down that side seam by reaching and pushing at the same time, on the same side. It's slightly odd. 4 of them, take your time, keep looking up, and then when you've got both arms up, so the shoulders are up round the ears, ribs might be flaring a little bit, pitch the weight forward so that you're on the balls of the feet, you can tap your heels, you know you're in the right position, allow those arms to just drop, and then bring the head up and over. It's going up and over Niagara Falls, chin is going down onto the chest, pelvis is staying in neutral for as long as possible. Soften the knees. Feel your spine just unraveling all the way down to the floor. And then straightening the legs. Bend the knees 2 or 3 times. And then last one, bend the knees, and there's that strong tuck under as you roll up and unravel through the spine. Really good. We're going to continue to use that movement. So let's take our feet wider than shoulder width apart, insteps nice and parallel. We've lifted the rib cage off of the hips, so we're going to take a side bend, reaching one arm up to where the ceiling and the wall meet, and the underneath arm across your body to where the floor and the wall meet. When you change sides, stretch your arms out to the side. In your bubble, you've got a bubble around you, you're trying to touch the edges all the way, all the time, all the way through. Breathing nice and evenly, try not to hold the breath, keep those hips and legs still, so no shifting over in the weight. Let's take 3 more of these, so 3, 2, 1, hold it a moment, make sure those shoulders are level with each other, not the underneath one pulled back. Really stretch those arms away, then bend the knees, relax down in the middle, so knees are really bent this time. Now strongly take that pelvic tilt, tuck under, push the pubic bone forwards, be practically all the way up, and then just finish that off with a little ripple. And then going over to the other side for 3, stretching out, and 2, stretching out, and 1, hold it there. Think of this lovely stretch on that side,
seam of your torso. Relax all the way down and then roll up. I'm just going to turn sideways to show you. Rolling up. Tuck that pelvis under, push the pubic bone forwards, unravel. If your roll up didn't look or feel like that, then just practice that a couple more times. Wonderful. We are going to take hands behind the head. Bring the elbows forwards. I'm going to go on a slight diagonal here. So feet are hip width apart. We've been working on this position quite a lot lately. So bring those elbows forwards, draw the shoulders down, create that hug around your armpit, send your tailbone down. Think about the weight through your feet, really nice and even on the fronts of the feet, the big toe joint, the little toe joint and the heel, even on all 3 points on both feet. Push the head into the hands, lift the head up. There's a whole load of things going on here. Then we're going to focus on folding over at the bra strap line at the back. We're going to fold over the bra strap line, we're going to come through neutral, we're going to fold over the bra strap line at the front almost, just the opposite part of the front of the ribs. So from a really good standing tall posture, lifting up and over. Check out what's going on through your feet and then fold over forwards. I worked out the other day when I did this, when I was teaching this, that there's sometimes a little bit of a cheat. I'm going to come a bit closer to the camera. So what happens this is what I want you to do. I want you to keep this the same. So it's hiding pretty much all of my face. And then I'm going forwards. There's no change because I'm pushing my head into my hands. I'm not changing the relationship of anything. If you cheat, you get this little, so you can see the eye over the top of the arm, or when you go forwards, you can see the chin jamming onto the chest. That's what we don't want. So try and keep it nice and square. Okay, so hopefully you've done a few of those. Now, so we were creasing at the front, we were creasing at the back, now we're going to crease at the side, around that same line in your ribcage. So we're going all the way back to start, and then we're folding around the side, then we're folding forwards, round to the other side, and all the way back. I should just be able to see your chin here. I can't look at myself in the monitor and do this, because I've gone quite a long way back, and then round to the other side. Try not to cut off that back part. Think about the weight through the feet. It should be staying even. Try not to go too far forward so that you stick your bottom out. 4 of those was a good measure there. Wonderful. Okay, we are coming into some sumo squats. So from a diagonal, arm on a diagonal, feet are nice and wide, coming down into our sumo squat. So facing forwards, fingertips are in, elbows are out to the side. I'm going to go to here. My spine is quite upright, but it's in its natural curves. From here, I'm going to unravel from my lower back. So I'm letting my chest fall forwards, my head relaxes last. Then from here, I want you to take that roll up that we've been doing. It's initiating from the pelvic tilt. It's also your chest and back lift. So, is it your chest and back lift? Not quite. It's not quite the chest lift, but it is the back lift, how we come up. So sumo squat, unravel the spine, tuck the pelvis under, think of lifting here first until you get to that point where you're as much tucked under in your pelvis as you can, and then finish the movement off. Sumo squat, unravel the head, lift the back, 3/4 of the way up. I'm so strongly tucking under here, really pushing that pubic bone forwards. My legs just straighten at the last point and then the head comes up. Let's do 2 more. Sumo squat, unravel, tuck under and lift. Sumo squat, unravel, tuck under and lift. Well done. Great job. Okay, we are taking some hula hoop overlaps. So imagine there's a hula hoop around it's at the height of your shoulder,
And the reason it's called hula hoop overlap is because your elbows are touching the inside of that hula hoop. And every time you cross over, so the head stays really forwards, you overlap. So I'm overlapping at the front and the back, and I'm only overlapping because I'm moving my shoulders, my hips and my ankles. Maybe I'm a bit too wide there. So there's a lot of rotation all the way round, but it's really dead straight rotation, dead straight through the spine in the middle, which is why I want you to keep your head facing forwards. Good, and then let's take some backstroke arms. So if you can see yourself in a monitor or a mirror, try and find something that's above your head and check that your head stays in the middle as you do this. So we're lifting one arm up, we're taking that arm back, the other arm comes forwards, we're squaring up and we're there. So I feel when I do this that my spine is completely upright. I feel like my arms are also working on that really upright plane. And then just come back to here a moment. So rotating around, make sure ankles, hips, shoulders are all moving. I'm going to step back a little bit so you can see my feet as well. Good, and then I want you to take that same movement with the arms, but now keep the maximum rotation in your shoulders. So essentially you end up going corner to corner. As you come through the middle, you're square on, then you swap to the other corner. One arm behind you, one arm in front. So the arm brushes past the ear. And now it's quite difficult to keep your head facing forwards because that will strain your neck a little bit. But I'm just looking towards the corner. My room here is quite square. So I'm reaching towards the opposite corner. Now do that same movement. Let's face forwards again. Now let's take front crawl with the arms. So this is the version where we keep the arms, we keep the line really straight. So we're not going forwards and backwards. We're not going corner to corner is what I meant. So essentially we're not rotating as much as we can. Now start to go to the corner and the corner. Square to the front, corner. So there's much more movement. Really beautiful rotation around that spine. And hopefully that should feel quite nice. It will only work if you allow those three areas, 1, 2, 3, to rotate around your spine. So that's what we're after there. Perfect. Okay, let's bring our hands together. Make a clasping movement and bring your feet maybe to the edge of the mat if you can, and come back to hip width apart. So we're pulling the hands apart a little bit. Hopefully you'll feel some activation around the serratus. Shoulder blades drawn down, elbows being pulled. You're trying to touch the opposite sides of the room, and we're just going to transfer over to one side. You can either just lift that leg so that your big toe, the top of your big toe is touching the floor, or you can lift it up so that it's level with your hip. But just swapping sides. Keep the pull, keep the clasp going on your hands, is the word I was after there. So my tissue box, hips and shoulders, absolutely square to the mirror, to the front, to the wall, wherever you happen to be, in line with the front of my mat. And then we're going to add on, holding one leg up, keep the clasp going. Rotate your shoulders, your rib cage only, and your head. But keep your head in line with your nose in line with your hands. So we're rotating once, coming back to square, putting that foot down and swapping sides, lifting. If you're lifting the leg all the way, the knee is directly opposite the hip. This is a small movement. You could cheat by swinging those arms around a little bit more. Try not to. So this is the easier version, requiring less balance. Tip of the toe on the floor, otherwise everything else is the same. It makes me go a bit crampy. And then I'm turning, making sure that this hip doesn't move. Square to the front and lowering, lifting, turning, square to the front and lowering. Carry on with a few more of those if you can. Hopefully noticing that there's no change in your body position, no change in the leg or the hip, and because you're pulling the elbows apart, maybe change your grip now, there's this nice, it's helping you with the balance, hopefully. Good, we're going to add on to that. I'm going to turn sideways. So exactly the same thing, feet are hip width apart, we're clasping with the hands, you're transferring over onto one side, you're lifting the leg. In fact, let's do it keeping the foot on the floor to start with. So, sorry, reset yourself, transfer over to one side, lift the heel, just the toe is on the floor. We're taking our rotation again, and I'm checking in the mirror, in the monitor, sorry, that my hip isn't moving, my leg isn't moving, and then I'm coming back to face forwards. Then I'm going to sweep that leg back behind me. I'm going to keep the toe on the floor, but there's no weight on it. Bending my standing leg, keeping my hands clasped, stretching my arms forwards. So I'm ending up in this position here. Arms are up by the ears. Then I'm going to come upright, straightening that standing leg, still on the tip of the toe, and then place the foot down. Swapping to the other side. Tip of the toe, and rotate. Try and only move that rib cage. Remember, it doesn't go very far. Bend your standing knee, hinge over that hip, stretch those arms up. Having a little look in the monitor. So I tend to, that back hip will want to lift up. I need to make that sure that's nice and square. So your tissue box is in exactly the same position. Front knee is bent, the foot is on the floor, arms are up by the ears. You're creating a beautiful diagonal line. Come upright, toes are on the floor, and place down. Let's do 4 more of those. You can either keep the toe on the floor or you could lift into a full knee lift. I'm going to do the full knee lift. So we're lifting, we're rotating, but not very much, making sure the hips stay still. We're sweeping that leg back, bending the standing leg. This can be as high or as low as you need it to be. Watch that hip on the leg that's gone out behind you. Make sure you're in that diagonal line. Bring the leg forward, standing up nice and straight, and put the foot down. Swap to the other side. Lift the knee, rotate towards that knee. Keep clasping those hands. Swing the leg back. Bend your standing leg. Woo, a little bit harder to balance it down this side. I'm trying to get my arms up by my ears. I'm pushing those hands forwards, but keeping the shoulders down. And lifting and lowering. I'm messing my mat up a little bit. 2 more. Lift, rotate. Straight standing leg. Bend the leg as you sweep the other leg through. Hinge at the hip. So your spine is going to be in exactly the same shape all the way through. Draw in, lift up, straighten that standing leg. Last set, here we go. Lift the knee, rotate. Don't let those hips start to swing about. Sweep the leg back, hinge over that hip. Think shoulders and hips parallel to the floor. Keep that standing leg, the knees over your toes, keep it nice and bent. Straighten it as you finish off, grand finale, and put that leg down. Well done. Woo, give your arms a bit of a shake, legs a bit of a shake. Fantastic. We're walking round. This is your homework. If you're a regular class member, this is your homework until next week. We will repeat this next week. It's the Flintstone Walks. So I'm going to go on the edge of my mat. I'm going to go on the back edge of my mat so that you can really see. You put one heel down, you transfer onto that foot. 100% transfer my weight onto that foot. As I lift that heel up, by bending my knee, not lifting up, I'm going to keep my toes attached to the heel, and then I'm going to place the heel down for the next one. Heel down, ball down, roll through. Keeping my toe just gently, because it's slow, it's actually quite handy that I've got the wall here, because when it's really slow, it's quite difficult to keep your balance. So I'm keeping it small, I'm keeping it on a tight rope. Let me just go forwards a couple of times. So heel touching my big toe. That big toe stays in contact, rolling through. Heel touching the toe, rolling through, rolling through. Great, I'm going to do some more this way. I'm going to stay in the middle of my mat this time. Heel, ball, roll through, heel, ball, roll through. And once you get the rhythm of it, once you get the coordination of it, it doesn't feel, you're not so worried about your balance anymore, because actually it's like a massage of your feet through and into the floor, through those toes, and if anything my weight is back a little tiny bit. Notice that the head doesn't change. It's quite strong on the calves and the ankles, but really good proprioception. Knees just brushing past each other. Great job. Okay, that's the Flintstone Walks. Have a practice of those, especially if you haven't done them before. Wonderful. Let's go nice and wide with the legs. In steps parallel, feet nice and wide. Glue your arms by your side and let's hinge forwards, finding your hamstring stretch and then coming upright. Sending your body forwards, I'm going to go sideways. Hinging from your hips. It's called a wide leg hip hinge. You're finding your personal biting point for your hamstring stretch. Legs are nice and straight. There isn't really much need to go beyond 90 degrees, even if you've got super flexible hamstrings. You can tweak it though if you want to. So from here, once you've done 3 or 4 and you've warmed up a little bit, you can either put the weight onto the balls of the feet so that you can lift your heels up, and maybe lift your chest slightly, maybe just send that sit bone, send your sit bones away, send your tailbone, arch that lower back a tiny bit. Or another way to tweak it is to slightly soften the knees, reach your arms forwards, and now take the weight back into the heels. And again, really send sit bones away in the opposite direction. This is so far back on my heels, which is why I need to bring my arms forwards. For me, that's a much stronger stretch at the top of my hamstrings. I'm just going to come back to face forwards again. Okay, so just one more of those. In fact, let's take our arms out to the side for this time. So legs nice and wide, hinging forwards. Get those arms parallel to the floor, and now we're bending the knees and straightening the legs. Bending the knees, straightening the legs. Your body is moving up and down like a platform. Knees are going over the toes. From the side, I'm here. Bending the knees, straightening the legs. Bending the knees, straightening the legs. Great job. Stay with those legs bent this time. Hands down to the floor. Let your head relax. Walk your fingertips forwards. Itsy bitsy spine, the fingertips forwards. And just lengthen. No weight in those hands. Lengthen out through the crown of your head and in the opposite direction from your tailbone. Maybe have a little shift from side to side. It's quite compressing in the hip joint, which is good. Great, let's bring those hands back to underneath your shoulders. Now walk your feet out so they're even wider, almost the length of my yoga mat. Turn the toes out to the corner of your yoga mat, and then let's swap from side to side by bending one knee, straightening the other leg. So just all in the name of maintaining our flexibility. My weight is going through my hands, so that's helping to support me. Really make sure the knee goes over the toes. Relax the other ankle so that foot doesn't roll in.
Brilliant, let's turn all the way round to one side. The feet pretty much, hopefully, already in the right position, with that front knee above or slightly behind the ankle. The opposite hand goes down. The same arm goes forwards. This is called the lizard. We're circling up and back with that nice straight arm. Then we're tucking the elbow in. We're touching the shoulder to the inside of that knee, and then we're stretching forwards, up and back, and tuck in. 2 more. Forwards, up, back, tuck in, forwards, up, tucking in, swapping round to the other side. Twiddle ankles, knees, hips, shoulders. Get yourself in the correct position on the other side. Opposite hand underneath your shoulder, next to that foot on the floor. Reach forwards, the same arm as the front leg. Tuck the elbow in, brush that shoulder. So you tuck the elbow in, you touch the shoulder, you don't brush it. You touch the shoulder to that knee. Notice I'm rocking forwards and backwards a little bit. 1 more maybe, I think I might have done an extra one on this side. And coming back to the centre, walk those feet in. I'm going to go sideways to show you. Knees are bent, you're sort of shoulder width apart. Let's take 1 more rounding, tucking under with that pelvis to roll all the way up to the top to standing, and I'm going to change my monitors. So finding our C curve in the spine from a seated upright position. So this would be the movement that we would use for rolling like a ball. Feet and knees are hip width apart. I'm sitting right up on my sit bones, and my spine is in its natural curves. I'm going to hold on to the backs of my knees, and from here I'm going to take that pelvic tilt, that strong pelvic tilt that we were doing standing up. So tuck the pelvis under, scoop out that tummy, make the C curve. This is the position, this seated position is when the C curve makes the most amount of sense to me, and it's partly to do with, from your neutral spine, it's to do with this tucking under of the pelvis, so that I go from my sit bones. I was sitting right on top of my sit bones. I've gone way past my sit bones now, and I'm on my sacrum. And when that bit can't go anymore, it makes the back round. But I'm trying not to, I'm not thinking that I'm going back. I'm not going into a straight line there. That makes everything dome anyway. So come back up to a neutral position. Scoop that tummy out. Do this bit as much as you can, and the rest will follow quite naturally. And then be here in this sort of rounded position. Let's just take a little balance here for a moment. Maybe bring your feet and your knees together. So when we take rolling like a ball, we're trying to keep this shape of our spine all the way through. We're trying to create this C curve. It's not a very deep C. It's quite a shallow C, but I feel like I'm rounded in my body. My elbows are lifted, my arms are quite rounded. Yeah, so I feel like I'm rounding this way and rounding this way as well, if that makes sense. I'm trying to sort of touch the edges of that bubble again. From here, keep that image of the shape of your spine in your mind, and we're going to lower down to the floor, but you're going to try and keep that curve. And it becomes like a rocking horse or a rocking chair. It becomes the rocking part of it. And because we're going to do rocking abdominals basically, so for me, my proportions mean that I can be in this rounded shape. I can straighten out my arms and let my legs just dangle. Everyone needs to let their legs dangle, and I'm pretty much in the right shape. Now I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to fix this angle. I'm fixing my arms, they're nice and straight. If you've got much longer arms or a shorter body than me, you might have your arms slightly bent, but keep them still, keep them in the same position. And then I'm starting to build the rocking motion without changing anything. And this is really strong. The area where I'm working the hardest is in the deep lower abdominals. I'm just going to relax a moment and just explain to you here. So it's from my belly button to my pubic bone. That's the bit where I'm doing a huge amount of scooping under, really trying to keep that tilt that we did when we were standing. The key to this is not to have the feet up high and not to use the legs. It's not rolling like a ball. It is just a rocking motion, fixing everything. If you wanted to work really much harder, take the legs away, take the hands away from the legs. I've still fixed everything and then I can't speak. Okay, let's stay there in that shape. In fact, let's come up. I find once you lie back down and once you lie your head back down, as good as it feels, you're flattening out your back, you're straightening it out to its natural curves, which is what we don't want. We want to try and keep this curve at both ends. So lower yourself back into it, lower your waistband into the floor. Now hug one knee and extend the other leg away. Really pull in on this knee. So I'm hanging onto this knee for dear life, both hands on top of this knee, trying to bring the knee in towards the shoulder. My spine is rounded. I'm going to circle both feet at the ankles. That shape is still going on. It hasn't changed. Changing direction of the feet. Swap legs. As you swap legs, it doesn't change. So I'm using this knee and this thigh. This shin is nice and parallel to the floor, if you can. I'm using this to keep me upright, keep my upper body upright. Change in direction if you haven't already. Let's stay here. Let's take some switches and switches. So it's a single leg stretch, but I want you to notice that the shape of your back doesn't change at all. We're cheating a little bit. So we're hanging onto this leg to help keep us up. Keep your chin tucked in. Try and keep your head over your shoulders. If your head is back here, it's going to start to get really uncomfortable on your neck. It will be uncomfortable on your neck anyway, but I'm also feeling it down here between belly button and pubic bone because I'm strongly pulling in that tummy. Great job. Hug those knees in. Have a very quick rest. Cross your ankles over maybe. Roll. Allow your head to roll from side to side, just to release that stress on the neck. Good. All of that hamstring stretching that we did earlier on is now going to become quite useful because we're going to take advanced scissors. Have a little look if you're not sure. So I'm coming up again into that same shape. This top leg is at 90 degrees. Because you're scooped under, tucked under in your lower back and you're not in a neutral, this should hopefully be available to pretty much everyone. Straight legs, pointed feet. We switch 3, 2, 1. We flex the feet and then we try and draw this leg in to extra stretch those hamstrings. We push the leg away to 90. We switch 3, 2, 1. Stopping at 90, then draw in. Here we go, join in with me. We've got 4 sets. Both feet are pointed, top leg is at 90, my tummy is scooped, my back is in that rounded shape. Here we go. Switch, 2, 3. Flex the feet, draw that top leg in, really push the back of the knee away. Straight legs, pointed feet. Switch, 2, 3. Flex, pulling in, push the back of the knee away, reach, return to 90, straight, 2, 3, 2 more sets, 1 more set to go after this one. This is my tighter side, I just have to push that knee back a little bit more, keep that spine rounded, keep that tummy sucking in, 1, 2, 3, we're nearly there. I'm using my arms to hang on, keep my upper body up, flex, draw in. Now point that foot. Keep the underneath the straight leg on the floor. Keep that one flexed. Top one is pointed. Now we're taking a single leg. Ooh, rock. 4, 6, 3, 2. Fixing the legs. 1. Swapping over. Flex the one that's on the floor. Push. I'm pushing the top leg away. I'm fixing my body exactly the same as I just did. 3, 2, I think I did extra on both sides, but never mind. And I've worked my way all the way up my mat, so my head is now off the mat. So I'm going to shuffle back down again. Woo, hard work. Okay, open the arms out to the side. Let's just have a quick unravel of that abdominal wall. Squeeze your feet and knees together, but don't work too hard. Keep your shoulders on, heavy on the mat, backs of hands on the mat. Take your knees and your hips and your feet from side to side. Try not to let your knees end up one knee higher than the other. So keep that contact, squeeze them together. As you're lifting your legs up, push the underneath leg into the top leg. And then once you've got that, so set yourself up a bit of a rhythm. Let your head, if you want to, just roll in the opposite direction. So this is a sort of half and half. It's not a completely relaxed lolling with your legs from side to side. It's not just a mobilising stretch, but I also don't want you to be too technical with it. Don't get too tense, don't get too tight. Try and have that sort of half and half combination. And breathe, of course. Great job. Okay, we are going into some bridges. So opening up those feet. Feet and knees hip width apart. Get your heels nice and close to your butt. Think about the shape of your spine as it is on the mat. Maybe have a bit of a wiggle about just to release that. We've been working quite hard in an unusual position. Hopefully you can feel it in that abdominal wall. We're going to really push down through the floor, in the feet. Lift the hips up, all the way up to the top. Keep the buttocks switched on a little bit and lower. Staying switched on. Try not to relax completely when you get to the bottom. Lifting up, rib cage is soft, relaxed, and lowering. Lifting up and lowering. Keeping a neutral spine all the way through and lowering. So I've really switched on the buttocks there. Now let's just stay there, keep the hips down on the floor. We're lifting opposite arm and leg up to the ceiling. The leg is in a perfect knee fold, knee directly above the hip. The arm is reaching up, so the hand is opposite your shoulder, and then they both come back down to the floor at the same time, swapping sides. Opposite arm and leg. Notice that there's no change in the shape of your spine. You're in a good neutral, you're just relaxed but switched on in your centre. Good, and then we're going to add this on to that bridge. We're going to go single leg bridge. So one leg stays on the floor, the other leg and opposite arm come up and straight back down, swapping sides. So this is called a marching bridge. Take your time, keep those hips level. And level. Good, lifting up. When you've done roughly an equal amount on both sides, notice which, or if you know you've got your weaker side anyway, stay on your weaker side. So if you notice that one side was weaker, not so good at keeping the hips level, stay on that side. Stay up with the arm and the leg 5 times. Lift and lower your hips to the floor. Staying on that one side. So tissue box square up to the ceiling now with your hips and your shoulders. I think I need to do 2 more. Great, I'm going to put that foot down, swapping sides. 5 on the other side. If it feels significantly stronger, or if it feels significantly weaker, do extra on your weaker side.
So if this side is feeling really great and not a problem, go back to your weaker side. So I'm just going to swap back to my weaker side. I've done 5 on that side. I'm going to do another 3 or 4 on my weaker side. Maybe if you discovered your second side was ultimately your weaker side, do a couple of extra on that side. Hips staying level, spine in neutral. One more. I can start to feel that fatigue sitting in a little bit now, settling in. And just hug those knees in, have a little roll around on that lower back. Brilliant, well done. How are we doing for timing? Good, okay, let's go to straight bridge. Let's finish off today. I'm going to do a slightly shorter class today as it's so hot. We're going to finish off with some nice side to side flowing side bends. So come into the middle of your yoga mat if you've got one, or imagine that space there. You're up on your knees are in the middle of the mat. We're going to put one hand down and extend the opposite foot away. And you're going to reach your fingertips across and then the ribs up to the side. And then you're going to bring your knees together, relax the head every time your hands brush along the floor, and then reach out to the other side. So stretching out the side of the body. Sweep and reach. And as you start to get used to this movement, try and relax in the middle. When you get to the end, maybe lift that leg up. Maybe look into the palm of that hand. Try and touch the sides of the room, the sides of your bubble. It's a very COVID, what's the word? Appropriate analogy, having your own bubble. And it wouldn't be much fun if you just had your own. You're in this self-isolation bubble. So swapping from side to side, lifting the rib cage, lifting the side seam up to the ceiling. Great job. One more there if you would like to. I'm just going to slightly change the emphasis a little bit. So come back to your sphere, your bubble. This time you're going to reach your arm forwards and then sort of sweep it up and back. Reach your arm forwards. It's coming into the same position, but I feel like I've gone into a bit more of a curve now. And it feels quite nice. So I'm not so much thinking side seam, I'm more thinking ribs. My arm and my hand and my foot are going in the opposite direction. I'm almost sweeping the leg back a little bit for this one. And we're there. I discovered this move at the end of last week's class when I was just having a bit of a wiggle about. Ooh, good job. Fantastic, thank you so much. Let's come onto all fours. Curl those toes under. So whatever you would like to do, if you would like to take some spine circles in either direction, maybe some shoulder rolls, maybe your hips back on your heels, have a little roll around there, whatever you fancy, maybe threading the needle, rotation from side to side. For me, it's always curling my toes under, pushing my chest back through my arms, and then just padding through the feet to get those Achilles stretched. That's always my weaker bit. I might bend my toes over as much as I can. I might lift one leg up and open up the hips and drop that foot down. We did that a couple of weeks ago in class. Lift, open up. The beauty of when the weather's a little bit warmer and when you've worked quite hard in class is just to use that for your advantage. Get everything stretched. It's all nice and lubricated and oiled and hopefully feels good. Thank you for joining me. Hope to see you very soon.